The trend of PS5 exclusives coming to PS4 continues. The list of PS5 exclusives that have yet to be released on PS4 is rapidly shrinking, and it looks like it's about to get a lot smaller because Demon's Souls, one of the biggest, only next-gen exclusive games that Sony had at launch for the PS5, received a rating that says it's going to come to PS4 in the near future. The news is coming from an account that's actually a pretty verified leaker called PlayStation Game Size that essentially tracks how big games are before and after patches on Twitter, which is kind of like a niche thing that's actually pretty interesting. But they're saying that they saw in the PlayStation database that there is a PS4 version of Demon's Souls, which is wild and makes a lot of sense. I'm not gonna hammer Jim Ryan anymore for saying that they believe in generations, because obviously the strategy has just full on changed at this point, and PS5 games are coming to PS4, PS4 games are coming to PC, and soon it looks like a lot of PS5 games are coming to PC, so we're just gonna take the punches as they come, and now we're gonna talk about Demon's Souls coming to the last gen console. Honestly, this doesn't really surprise me, because if you look at all of the next gen games we got at launch for the PS5, the one that seemed the least next gen was Demon's Souls. It really felt like the PS4 to the PS4 Pro version of something like Horizon Zero Dawn, and it was kind of surprising that there wasn't a PS4 version at launch. And that's extra interesting because when they initially announced this Demon's Souls remake, at the end of the trailer there was a little note at the bottom that said also coming to PC, but then Sony was like, no, that wasn't supposed to be there, it was a human error, sorry guys. But it turns out the human error was probably that they just announced it too early. Like someone at Sony, like an intern or something, was cutting this trailer, looked at their little list of games and said like, oh, the platforms next to Demon's Souls are PS5, PS4, and PC, so I'm just gonna throw that on the trailer. He was probably trying to get a promotion or something, or a full-time job, and he screwed it all up. I know a lot of people who have PS5s are getting upset about stuff like this because they're saying, well, these games are being limited to run on PS4, but this is another example of a game that was made for PS5 from the get-go, and then they're retroactively scaling it down for PS4. So in my opinion, we're not getting a worse off experience on the PS5, unless this was in the cards all along, in which case we can argue all day long about it. But at the end of the day, you're still getting the best experience on the PS5 no matter what. So if they want to port it to PS4 and let people play an inferior version of the game, I guess that's totally fine. I'm not going to get upset about it because it's already happening. So if you look at the PS5 and just assume that Demon's Souls is coming to the PS4, there are actually only a few games left that aren't on PS4. You've got Sackboy's Big Adventure, or Sackboy A Big Adventure, I think is what it's actually called. You've got Returnal, and you've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now, Returnal is one that I go back and forth on in thinking whether or not it can run on PS4. Honestly, I think it probably could, and we will see a port of that game coming down the line because it didn't sell all that well on PS5. And then you've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which I really don't think could run on the PS4. There's a lot more to it with the Rift pulling when you can jump around the levels and teleport everywhere that I don't think the PS4 could do, just because it doesn't have an SSD. And I think that we won't see it come to that console just because it really is the flagship PS5 game right now. But yeah, I'm honestly becoming a little sympathetic towards all the people who can't get PS5s, because in the comments on every video we post, we have a lot of people who still can't get one and just have PS4s. So you'll have a really cool game with Demon's Souls to look forward to, it looks like. I don't think I'm gonna make anyone upset if I say that E3 was a little bit disappointing this year, especially from the standpoint of a PlayStation fan, but one of the coolest announcements we got was a director's cut of Death Stranding, and it looks like that is actually only going to come to PS5, even though the game is on PC as well. This story is coming from Comicbook.com, who actually have a pretty good track record with leaking this stuff, and they're saying that the ESRB has just rated Death Stranding Director's Cut, and they gave it an M, which is no surprise since the first release of the game was rated M, but the only console listed in that rating is PS5. Now that's actually not as surprising to me as you would think, because Sony didn't actually publish the PC version of Death Stranding. It was 505 Games who did that, and I'm assuming that if Sony fronted Kojima the money to develop this extra content for Death Stranding, they're probably like, well, 505 can pay us for the PC rights, and I feel like 505 is sitting there saying, well, we'll wait and see how much content is actually coming to the game before they commit to anything. It is a little disappointing to me though, because I'm one of the people who played Death Stranding on PC, and I'm a huge Kojima fan, so I would really like to see this new content. So I'm going to have to evaluate when it's actually announced what's coming to the game to see whether or not I want to double dip and replay this entire game on PS5, which I probably won't do because it's like 50 hours long, and it's tough for a gamer out here to find that much time. The The coolest thing about that director's cut trailer though was obviously the fact that there was Metal Gear Solid music in it and tons of references to Metal Gear Solid. I know a lot of people are looking at that trailer and saying, it's Kojima finally breaking up with Metal Gear. I don't feel like Kojima's gonna go to Konami, who he had a very messy public breakup with, who also owns the rights to everything Metal Gear, and license music from Metal Gear Solid from them just to put in Death Stranding, unless there's some sort of plan there for a new Metal Gear Solid game or remake coming down the line. I know that's wishful thinking. I know it's more optimistic than I usually am here on the channel, but I love Metal Gear Solid and I would love a remake on the PS5. Fingers crossed. My favorite things to talk about in these news update videos are PS Plus games leaking, because that's the first news roundup we did, which is kind of funny. And also they seem to leak every month. And Sony is continuing the trend of having really good banger games as the headline for their PS Plus offerings. One of the coolest announcements during E3 was that A Plaguetale Innocence is getting a sequel. And that game, if you've never played it, is more of like an underdog story where it's punching way outside of its weight. It's a single player narrative game where you have light combat elements and it's really focusing on telling a good and riveting story, and in my opinion it did a really good job. But a lot of people missed that game when it came out, so it's nice to see that the July headlining game for PS Plus is going to be A Plaguetale Innocence. It doesn't seem like it from the key art or the posters or whatever, but it's actually a horror game because there are floods of rats that make it hard to navigate any level because they will kill you instantly, and you can actually use the rats to your advantage by luring enemies into them to get eaten by them. And it's super gory, super scary, and I think it's a good PS Plus game because you can run through it in a weekend, and it's one of those games where people would look at it and say, it's on sale for like 15 bucks. I don't know if I want to spend that just to play a game for a weekend. Now PS Plus is coming in clutch, giving it away for free. The timing is a little bit weird because we're going to have to wait until 2022 for the sequel, but again, if you've never played this game, I think it's really good, so add it to your account whether or not you're going to play it right away. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't added Star Wars Squadrons to your account yet, make sure you do that before it goes away. It has a PSVR mode that is super good, and I'm assuming it'll get a patch to run on the PSVR 2 whenever that comes out. It is an insane VR game to play. Like, hitting the boost in an X-Wing is the coolest thing I've ever done. One of the cooler things I think about Sony is that when they're going to update the console, they don't do small updates that only add one feature. They usually wait until they have a lot of features that are thoroughly tested that they can make a huge firmware update with to really get people excited. And that's exactly what they're doing with the next PS5 update. But the interesting thing here is that you can actually use your PlayStation Network account to sign up to beta test it. And I would actually recommend doing this because I was a beta tester for PS4 back in the day, and by the time they actually allowed people to try out this beta version of the software, it's like 3 or 4 or 5 days before it actually comes out to the public. So they're just giving you a near finished build to just make sure there aren't any critical bugs in it or anything that's just going to get annoying. So if you really want to see what's coming to the PS5 next, I would definitely go sign up at the PlayStation blog for this beta software. One of the scariest moments of my life is that while I was writing for a bigger game website in college, I got into the PS4 beta program, and one day during lunch, I got a call from Sony on my cell phone, and it said Sony, which was crazy because obviously they weren't in my phone. And also, I'm not exactly sure how they got my cell phone number, but they wanted to make sure I wasn't gonna leak anything in this beta build of PS5 firmware. So I still make sure to this day I'm always signed up for beta software. And the interesting thing about Sony is that you have to do it every time. So if you wanna stay in the beta program, next time they announce a new beta software piece that's coming out, make sure you sign up individually each time. As for what's included in this beta, Sony hasn't said yet, but I think they'll let us know soon enough. I'm really crossing my fingers that it's the update that gives us access to the SSD port on the PS5. I'm really frustrated with how quick that console fills up. I feel like I'm constantly deleting games and re-downloading new ones, and I just wish they would allow me to put this SSD I bought like 6 months ago in my PS5 and extend the storage. I know you can plug in a USB 3.0 drive and move your PS4 games over to it, but the PS5 is so big already, it's taking up so much space in my entertainment center. I don't want another weird, like, tumor-ish hard drive hanging off of it. It's not elegant, it doesn't look good, and that's just not what I want to be doing. I'd much rather have an SSD in the console that I have access to, and I don't understand why it's taking so long for Sony to open up that feature. I'm assuming it's because they're not getting the same speeds out of these external drives that they're getting on the motherboard of the PS5, and they have to come up with some firmware workaround for that or something. I don't know. They need to get this on the console console already working because it's super frustrating. Xbox has had a way to extend the storage of their console since day one with that weird little expansion card that costs way too much. So Sony, you gotta catch up here. Please tell me guys that this update is for that feature. But yeah guys, that's all I have for you today on PlayStation news. Let me know if you're excited to play Demon's Souls on your PS4 down in the comments below. And remember to subscribe with your notifications set to all if you haven't already. As always guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.